Hello everyone! Have we got an exciting time planned for you today? So let the adventure begin. Today I want to focus on mountain music. Southwest Virginia has a rich tradition in mountain music, which it has formed the basis of our modern country, bluegrass, folk, and even rock music. Early songs and ballads were stories about real people and events that were passed down from word of mouth from one generation to the next. Many of these ballads were brought to Southwest Virginia by the early settlers and from their native countries. Early performers like the Carter family, Leslie Riddle, Doc Boggs, Kate Peters, Sturgill, and the Stanley brothers collected these ballads and made them known to later audiences. These Southwest Virginians also took their life experiences and times that shaped them to create new songs that spoke of people's everyday experiences. With the success of the movie soundtrack, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?, a wider audience has once again felt the powerfulness of these songs and music. Today, musicians like Ralph Stanley II and Blue Highway are ensuring that the musical roots of Southwest Virginia keep growing. Other groups among our rich heritage include Harry Gay, Steve Tater, Carl Martin, Spike Carson, Mother Maybelle, Jim and Jessie McReynolds, Jeanette Carter, and Larry Sparks. One of the best groups of mountain music that I have ever heard was at R.L. Crawford's church in Byington, which is right there next to Coburn. Some of the best music I have ever heard. When church was over, the group of musicians got together and just started picking, and I'm telling you, I sat there just absolutely amazed. There's so much talent in these hills. Today, I have the honor and privilege of introducing to our audience another up-and-coming artist who will one day be big, if not bigger, than anyone we have heard so far. And we'll have the privilege of saying, I knew him when. This young artist is an extraordinary songwriter who composes his lyrics from his own life experiences, just like our musical forefathers. His music is so rich and full of emotion. It's a mixture of country, rock blues, and soul. And let me introduce Jason Kilgore, better known as T-Bone, of the Scratch River Telegraph Company. I have his CD that he autographed for me personally. It is his music, like I said, is so rich. And he's here with us today, and he's going to perform one of his songs from the album. And my favorite is The Flood, because when you listen to these words, it touches your soul. So let's hear from T-Bone.
I woke up this morning and I found my baby gone. She left me today and now I'm all alone. She never left a note and now I don't know why. My baby, she's gone. She never said goodbye. I searched through the house till I saw her laying there. She had cuts on her wrist and there was blood everywhere. The dog started barking when I hit the floor. I held her in my arms just like before. It's not what you wanted, it's not what you needed, it's not what you wanted, but you always wanted more. Take said goodbye.
See what I mean about an artist, a rising new star? And you see what I mean that we can say, well, I knew him when. He has got the most unique voice, style of music. I was watching him, the way he moves his fingers on the guitar, but what I'm so impressed with is the sound that he's able to produce. Now, you can go online to the Scratch River Telegraph Company for their website, or you can contact ARC TV, P.O. Box 40, Norton, Virginia, 24273, for information about T-Bone and where he's playing next. And like I said, people, he is a rising new star, and I feel so honored to have known him. Now, our story today, you could say that, yes, today's story time with Mother Goose is about mountain music. Music and sound is so important. And our SOL today, which I'll share with you in a moment, deals with the chemistry of sound. Now, as I share this story with you, the Pied Piper, I want you to think about what you just heard and how important and how powerful music is. It seems that once, long, long ago, there was a little town of Hamlin, and it was dreadfully troubled by rats. The houses were full of them. The shops were full of rats. The churches were full of them. Rats were everywhere. The people were all but eaten out of house and home. Those rats. They fought the dogs and killed the cats. They bit the babies in the cradles and they ate the cheese out of the vats. They licked soup from the cook's own ladle. They even split open the kegs of salted sprats. They made nests inside men's Sunday hats and even spoiled women's chats by drowning their speaking with shrieking and squeaking in 50 different sharps and flats. At last, it got so bad that the people couldn't stand it any longer. So they all came together and went to the town hall and said to the mayor, "Listen here, Mayor. What do we pay your salary for anyway? What good are you if you just can't get rid of the rats? You must get rid of the rats. Find a remedy or we'll send you packing." Well, the poor mayor was in a terrible way. He didn't know what to do. He sat with his head in his hands and thought and thought. Suddenly, there came a little rat-tat at the door. Oh, how the mayor jumped. His poor old heart went pity-pat at anything that sounded like a rat. But it was only the scraping of shoes on the mat. So the mayor sat up and said, "Come in." And in came the strangest figure. It was a man who was very tall and very thin, with a sharp chin and a mouth where his smiles went in and out, and two blue eyes, each like a pin. He was dressed half in red and half in yellow. He really was the strangest fellow. Around his neck he had a long red and yellow ribbon, and on it hung a thing, something like a flute, and his fingers went straying up and down, as if they wanted to be playing. He came up to the mayor and he said, "I hear you're troubled with rats in this town." "I should say we are," groaned the mayor. "Would you like to get rid of them?" said the piper. "I can do that for you." "You can?" cried the mayor. "How? Who are you?" "They call me the Pied Piper," said the man, "and I know a way to draw them after me. Everything that walks, flies, or swims. What will you give me if I rid your town of rats?" "Anything, anything," said the mayor. "I don't believe you can do it, but if you can, I'll give you $1,000. "All right, it's a bargain," said the piper. Then he went to the door, stepped out into the street, and stood there. He put the flute-like thing to his mouth and began to play a little tune. a strange, high-pitched little tune. Before 3 shrill notes were uttered, you heard as if an army muttered. This muttering grew to grumbling. Then the grumbling grew to a mighty rumbling. Out of the houses the rats came tumbling. Great rats, small rats, lean rats, brawny rats, brown rats, black rats, gray rats, tawny rats, grave old plotters, happy young friskers, fathers, mothers, uncles, cousins, cocking tails and pricking whiskers. Finally, they all followed the Pied Piper. From street to street he piped. All the rats followed dancing, up one street and down another, till they came to the edge of a big river, and there the Pied Piper turned sharply and stepped aside, and all those rats tumbled head over heels down the bank into the river and were drowned, every single one. Then the piper came back to the town hall. All the people were waving their hats and shouting for joy. The mayor said that they'd have a big celebration and build a tremendous bonfire right in the middle of town. He asked the piper to stay and see the bonfire. Yes, said the piper, that will be very nice. But first, if you please, I should like my $1,000. Said the mayor. You mean that little joke of mine? Of course that was a joke. You see, it's always harder to pay for something when you no longer need it. I do not joke, said the piper very quietly. My $1,000, if you please. Oh, come now, said the mayor. You know very well it wasn't worth a dime to play a little tune like that. Call it $1 and let it go at that. The piper said, a bargain is a bargain. For the last time, will you give me my $1,000? I'll give you a pipe of tobacco, something good to eat, and call you lucky at that, said the mayor, tossing his head. Then the piper's mouth grew a little strange and thin, and sharp blue and green lights began to dance in his eyes. Very softly he said to the mayor, I know another tune other than the one I just played. I played this one for those who do not justify with me. Well, play what you please. You don't frighten me. Do your worst, said the mayor, making himself big. Then the piper stood on the steps of the town hall and put the pipe to his mouth and began to play a little tune. It was a different little tune this time, very soft and sweet and very, very strange. And before he had played 3 notes, you heard small feet pattering, little hands clapping, and little tongues chattering. Out came the children, running and laughing and dancing. All the little boys and girls with rosy cheeks and flaxen curls, with sparkling eyes and teeth like pearls, tripping and skipping and running merrily after the wonderful music, and the shout was shouting and laughter. Stop, stop, cried the people. He's taking our children. Stop him, Mr. Mayor. I'll give you your money, I will, cried the mayor, and he tried to run after the piper. But the very same music that made the children dance made the grown-up people stand stock still. It was as if their feet had been tied to the ground. They could not move a muscle. There they stood and watched the piper move slowly down the street, playing his little tune, with the children following at his heels. On and on he went. On and on the children danced, till they came to the river bank. Oh no, cried the people. He will drown our children in the river. But the piper turned and went along the bank with the children following. Up, up, up the hill they went, straight toward the mountain, which was like the roof of a house. Just as they got to it, the mountain opened like two great doors, and the piper went in with the children, dancing after him. Then the mountain closed its doors. That was all the people ever knew. The children never came back. And that is the end of this little story of the Pied Piper. So we can see now just how enchanting music can be. Oh, I am still just absolutely mesmerized over T-Bone's anointed singing. So if you want to book him for a show, just call the TV station. Now, I said that today we're going to be talking about the chemistry of sound. SOLs, oh my goodness. Like I said, they're just sprinkled all throughout the show. We've done biology, science, and right now we're getting ready to do chemistry. Now, the chemistry of sound, that's what we want to focus on. The definition of sound is this: something that can be heard. Well, that answers the age-old question: if you cut a tree down in if a tree falls in a forest, does it make a sound? Yes, it does. Just because somebody's not there to receive the sound waves, it does make a sound. Sound is vibration, is the vibrations traveling through the air, water, or some other medium, especially those within the range frequency that can be perceived by the human ear. We know that these vibrations of sound waves has an actual effect on the molecules of the human body. As we all know, matter is made up of atoms. You have, in a little atom has the nucleus and the electrons flying around the outside. It's much like our sun and planets. These tiny electrons vibrate as they're spinning around, and sound waves actually have an effect on the vibration patterns of these molecules, or electrons, either in a negative or positive way. Now, the Bible says that out of the mouth proceed both blessings and curses. That is why it is so important to watch what you say and the music that you listen to. Now, if I were to speak the word shalom, you could hear it with your ears. You could feel the sonic vibrations with your body. But there's also a molecular adjustment happening as the little electrons are vibrating, going around. And it does have a positive effect. So the word shalom is good. It is a blessing word. The word shalom is a Hebrew word, which means peace, hello, goodbye. But it also means restoration and reconciliation with God and with others. On the other hand, if I spoke another word that begins with an S and ends with a T, it would also have an effect on the electrons' vibration pattern, but in a negative way. And it's really interesting how the Bible says that out of the mouth proceed both blessings and curses. Yes, God made us. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. And it's so amazing that, wow, the Bible really didn't know what it's talking about, because science backs it up. So the next time that you're tempted to say some of these other words, just remember, it has an effect on the vibration of the electrons in a person's body. So a person is actually getting a molecular adjustment. Now, medical research, this is where it gets a little strange. Medical research is exploring sound and healing, and some most interesting some most interesting results have been found. A friend of mine I went to school with, she was telling me about this guy. They were doing some research, and this guy had some kind of a liver disorder, and they just played some music to his liver. I know it sounds weird. The guy recovered. Now, it could have happened anyhow, but then there's also, I will say, some more science projects of plants in two different environments. Same plant, same soil, same everything in enclosed environments. One plant had classical music played to it. Another plant had another type of music played to it. And the plants should not have been affected. But guess what? The only variable there was the music. And yes, the plant that had the classical music grew healthy. The one that had I'm going to say the bad music, did not. The beat of a drum, the beat of music, if it is in synchronization with your heartbeat, this is good. Some music, the beat is out of synchronization with your heart. It can actually cause physical ailments. So when we listen to music, it's very important what kind of music we listen to. It's important who we're around, what words are being spoken, because all of this does have a scientific basis. It does affect the vibration of the electrons as they're going around the nucleus of the atom. So in conclusion, sound or music is more important than what we realize. Now, the strange and unusual. Oh boy, how could it get any more stranger? Well, let me tell you. Earlier, whenever we looked at the definition of sound, it mentioned the human ear. The Bible does say that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And yes, we are. And let me tell you, if an atheist would have to believe in God after studying the human body, it is absolutely amazing. Now, let's look at the human ear. The outer ear gathers the sound waves, which travel down the canal, strike the tympanic membrane, or the eardrum. Wonder why it's called an eardrum. It's like a drum, and it's inside your ear, for real. This eardrum is filled with fluid, causing it to vibrate. When the sound waves hit it, then this fluid vibrates, causing the bones in the middle ear to start vibrating. They transmit these vibrations, and then it finally hits this little coiled, looks like a snail shell, this little bone called a cochlea. And it's a structure in the inner ear, and it looks a lot like a snail shell. Now, if this snail shell, and on our picture I have darkened it in with a marker so you can see it a little bit better. When this snail shell, when the sound waves hit it, inside of it, if we could unroll it and cut off the top of it, we would see little hairs in that snail shell. I'm using a hairbrush as an analogy so you can see it. And each one of these little hairs will vibrate. Now, the interesting thing, I'm going to put this down for just a moment. The interesting thing is that each one of these little ear hairs, and it's like, oh no, more hairs in my ear. Relax, these can't be seen, they're microscopic. Now, on this little hairbrush, and my dog got a hold of it, there are 480 of these little bristles. Yes, I counted them. Math, SOL. You can't get away from your SOLs. I counted only one little cluster. And then I multiplied it by how many clusters down this way. And that's how I came up with the number 480. However, in this little tiny organ, these little tiny hairs in that cochlea, there are 24,000 little hairs. Now here there's only 480, but there's 28,000. And each little ear hair vibrates to one particular frequency. So I could say that some of the frequencies that we can hear, it's because we don't have an ear hair to pick up that vibration. So as the vibrations hit these little hairs in turn are attached to the auditory nerve, which go to the brain, and where the sound waves or these little vibrations are transferred into sound, translated into sound. And so interesting, what we hear is actually being picked up by these little hairs. So I just think this is absolutely fascinating how we can hear. And it is so amazing how all this works. And people, I stand in awe of our awesome God. Our calendar time, which we haven't even talked about, our Native American calendar is March, or Crow Moon. On our calendar, I had everything figured out except for March, which was Crow Moon, and then November, which was Beaver Moon. And so it was kind of like a challenge for my school kids. And so I said, well, find out why. Why do you all think it is? Because I have bookmarkers made up of this. And so we would always talk about it. Well, why did they name January Snow Moon and such and forth for all of the moons? And so that's a good way to stimulate critical thinking. Well, one of the kids came back and said that March was a Crow Moon because in the winter with all the snows, you run out of food. February, you're going hungry. And I hate to say this, but then February, it's like a lot of death. And the crows are scavengers. And the crows help clean up the dead stuff that starved to death during the winter. I thought, oh, okay. About scavengers. If we didn't have the scavengers, they said that Earth would be piled up a mile high with all the dead stuff. And so it's good that we do have the scavengers and the decomposers. Slipped a little biology in there on you. Now, what else have we got going on today? Well, we've been talking about music and sound. Now, during our break, I was talking with T-Bone. You didn't know about this whenever I was talking to you. And on his guitar, he was showing me how the different sounds can be made on it. And I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of like the little rubber band box guitar, which I did not make. But you can take a shoebox and make a guitar and put the rubber bands around it. These rubber bands, I was playing with them the other day and just kind of stringing them on my hand. And it's so amazing. Different sound waves will be produced by the different thicknesses or lengths of the rubber band. And just like on his guitar, he was showing me that the closer or the shorter of a string, the higher the pitch. And so that's something interesting to play with. You could also do another science project with sound. Now, speaking of sound, what are some instruments that you can make? You can have your own little garage band. You can make a box guitar or a paper plate maracas. I love the paper plate crafts. I just typed in on the computer, what can musical instrument crafts, stuff you can make at home. And then it said a paper plate. Well, I love decorating with the puff paint. It's got beans in it, and so I just typed in paper plate crafts. People, I got a couple of pages on just sites that you can go to looking for things to do with the paper plate. This one's full of beans. Another thing that you can do is make a rain stick. I love rain sticks. They sound like rain. I made this one the other day. Well, it worked for a while until I put the lid on. This is a paper towel roll. You take a paper towel roll, get you some aluminum foil, twist it around kind of like a snake, and then curl it around like a spring. Put it down in the tube. Put you some beans or some rice in here. And I was playing with it, and it worked just fine because the beans hit, or the rice will hit, and it takes a while to get down through there making all of these sounds. Put the lid on, quit working. I thought, okay. Now, you can make a drum, get an oatmeal box, stretch an old inner tube, cut out a piece of the rubber, stretch it over that, you've got a drum. There's so many things you can do. A xylophone, love xylophones. You can take glasses of water. And I had some jars, and I thought, well, I can use that because I've got plastic glasses. And so I had my little jars, and you can fill them up with different amounts of water and ping on them with a spoon, and they'll actually make some beautiful sounds. The jars don't work. The glasses would. I have seen this done. And in fact, in the movie Miss Congeniality, Sandra Bullock did the glasses, and so you can see that. Now, Mountain Dew time, because we're talking about mountain music. What can you do? Go to the internet and type in Mountain Dew recipes. I have got all sorts of recipes, and for lunch today we're going to have Mountain Dew cake. And so go to the internet and check out Mountain Dew. For T-Bone as a guest on my show today, I want to give him some green soap. It looks like Mountain Dew. And I have also written a little story on here on a little bookmarker for him. And since it's St. Patrick's Day, I thought, well, here's him some gold coins. So I want to thank T-Bone, and I do make this. I make a lot of products. So I want to thank everyone for being with us today. And remember, people, that the words you speak are either a blessing or a curse. Because we have the power, yes, we have the power to heal or to make someone sick with the very words we speak. It not only hits the mind and causes an emotional change, but it also hits the body, the molecules. So watch out for your molecular adjustments. I love you, and shalom.